Hi everyone. On October 26th, the Holy Orthodox Church celebrates the memory of Saint Cedd, Bishop of Essex. Now, of course, when we are speaking about the early English and Irish and Scottish churches, we tend to dump them all into one big bucket, which, of course, in the years of 500 and 600 AD, they most certainly were not. In fact, because of the difficulties in language and political outlook, and even the composite mixture of paganism and Christianity, there was always political upset, many wars, a lot of violence, and difficulties of one kind or another that seemed to go on continuously. Now, Saint Cedd was actually an Anglican, and he was someone, however, that was raised under the tutelage of St. Aidan of Lindisfarne in Northumbria. Aidan, of course, was an Irish monk, someone who brought St. Cedd up in the history of Irish spirituality and liturgiology. Well, Cedd early on was someone who showed his great devotion to the Orthodox faith, and eventually the king in the area sent him out into the Saxons, in the East Saxons to be specific, where he did a lot of evangelization and was very successful in his efforts. After this, Saint Finan ended up consecrating him bishop because of the efforts that he saw Saint Cedd engaged in. Now, Cedd, after he became a bishop, was someone who went to many, many places, established many monasteries, many churches, and did his best to spread the faith of Christ and the consequent peacefulness that came along with it. He was not always successful, and in fact, in East Saxony, the difficulties were very, very difficult because it was pagan, then it became Christian, then it became pagan again, and this was not uncommon among all the regions of the British Isles, where different political alliances sometimes would dictate exactly what religion the king of the area would adhere to. But yet St. Cedd kept after it and after it and after it, and was very, very successful overall, at least during his lifetime. Finally, in 664, in the English Church, a synod, a great synod called the Synod of Whitby, was called. And in that synod, they finally resolved many disputes that were long-lasting, like the date of Pascha, for instance, how monks are to be tonsured, which we would not think of would be that big a deal today, but back then it was. Because you see, unlike many other portions of the Christian ecumeny throughout the world, in the British Isles it was a little different because the monasteries held great, great sway. They were the centers of spirituality, and they were the ones that actually would send out missionary bishops to different areas. St. Cedd was one of these missionary bishops. And because of his presence at the Synod of Whitby, because of his translation efforts and general demeanor, he was able to make the differing parties, which spoke all kinds of languages, Old Irish, Old English, Welsh, Latin, you name it, and they couldn't understand each other. He was able to make their comments comprehensible to one another and contributed greatly to the lasting outcome that came out of this Holy Synod. In fact, even though he had grown up as Celtic in his religious demeanor and liturgiology, he actually accepted what we now know as the Latin Byzantine calendar of the Orthodox Church. This went a long way to help establish the efforts that St. Augustine of Canterbury had tried to put forth a number of years earlier. St. Cedd eventually went to a monastery called Lastingham that was built and then consecrated by him after he fasted and prayed for 40 days. He ended his life there, actually the same year as the Synod of Whitby in October 26th, 664, and died of the plague. His reputation, already well known at that time, continued to spread. so that all were made aware of his sanctity. And because of that, the great number of superb hierarchs that existed at that time in England, which went so far to the ultimate Christianization of that land after so many, many turbulent years. By his prayers, may we also be able to get through difficult times that we face in our lives through all sorts of circumstances and things that happen to us, but yet keep the eye on our Lord Jesus Christ, the same personage that so lighted the way for Saint Cedd. Bye-bye.